She blocked you on social media. Then she showed up where she knew you would be. She told her friends you were nobody special. Then she asked them what you said about her. She left your message on read for 3 days. Then she watched every single story you posted. This is not confusion. This is not mixed signals. This is the oldest form of psychological warfare. And you were never taught how to read it. I spent 11 years studying human behavior in places most people never see. Private consultations, corporate negotiations, environments where reading hidden intent was not a skill. It was survival. What I learned changed how I see every interaction, especially the ones between men and women. Robert Greene wrote that the people who are most dangerous are those who disguise their intentions beneath a layer of ordinary behavior. He was talking about power, but he was also describing desire, because hidden wanting follows the same rules as hidden strategy. The more someone wants something, the more they work to conceal it. Today I am giving you the complete map. 13 signs she secretly wants you, but actively pretends she does not. Not surface-level advice. Not obvious signals you can find anywhere. I am showing you the shadow patterns. The behaviors that reveal themselves only when you know exactly where to look. But first, you need to understand something most men never grasp. There is a reason she hides, and that reason is not you. Schopenhauer argued that human will operates beneath conscious awareness. People do not choose their desires. Desire chooses them. And when desire conflicts with self-image, with social position, with fear of rejection, the mind creates a mask, not to deceive you, to protect herself from what she feels. I call this the shadow desire protocol. It has 3 phases: concealment, testing, revelation. Every sign I am about to show you falls into one of these phases. Once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Let us begin with sign 1. She remembers details you never emphasized. You mentioned a restaurant 3 weeks ago, a passing comment. You barely remember saying it. Then she brings it up, not as a question, as a fact. You said you liked the pasta at that place on 5th Street. This is not good memory. This is selective attention. The brain does not record everything equally. It prioritizes what matters emotionally. Freud called this cathexis, psychic energy flowing toward objects of desire. When she remembers small details, her unconscious is telling you something her words never will. But here is where most men fail. They get excited. They point it out. You remembered that? Now she feels exposed. The mask goes back up, harder than before. The correct response is simple. Acknowledge without highlighting. Yeah, we should check it out sometime. No surprise in your voice, no eagerness. You treat her memory as normal, because a man who is used to being wanted does not react to evidence of wanting. Greene teaches that power belongs to those who control their reactions. This is where that principle becomes practical. Your unreactivity tells her something crucial. That closeness with you does not require performance. She can let details slip without punishment. I worked with a man last year who kept losing women after strong initial connections. Every time she showed interest, he pounced on it. Every signal became a conversation about the signal. He thought he was building intimacy. He was building pressure. When he learned to receive without grasping, everything shifted. Sign 1 belongs to the concealment phase. She is hiding her interest, but attention leaks through memory. The detail she recalls reveals the space you occupy in her mind. Write this down. Attention is involuntary. What she remembers tells you what she cannot stop thinking about. But memory is only the first leak. The next sign shows up in a place most men never think to look. And it reveals not just interest, but how much power she is afraid you already have over her. Sign 2. She controls her laughter around you. Watch a woman with a man she finds irrelevant. Her laughter is loose, unguarded. She does not care how it sounds or how long it lasts. There is no tension because there are no stakes. Now watch her with a man she secretly wants. The laughter comes, but it stops short, like she caught herself mid-expression. Her smile tightens at the edges. She looks away right after, almost checking if she revealed too much. This is emotional regulation in real time, and it is exhausting. Machiavelli observed that those who wish to control outcomes must first control themselves. A woman hiding desire applies this instinctively. She knows unguarded laughter signals openness. Openness signals vulnerability, and vulnerability before certainty feels dangerous. So she edits, not because she dislikes you, because she likes you too much to risk exposure. I want you to understand the weight of this. She is spending cognitive energy managing her responses to you. That energy is not spent on men who do not matter. Indifference requires no management. Only desire does. Here is your test. Say something mildly funny. Not your best material? Something worth a smile, not a laugh. If she laughs bigger than the joke deserves, she is performing comfort. If she laughs smaller than it deserves, she is concealing something else. The advice here is counterintuitive. Do not try to make her laugh more. Do not escalate the humor to break through her control. That pressure increases her need to regulate. Instead, let the contained laughter exist without comment. Let her feel that you are not trying to extract reactions. That safety is what eventually dissolves the mask. Now we move to something darker. Sign 3. She criticizes women she thinks you find attractive. Not obvious insults. Nothing that would make her look jealous. Subtle reframes. You mention a female colleague. She finds a flaw. She seems kind of scattered, though, right? You point out an actress. She notes something unflattering. Her voice is kind of annoying in interviews. This is not random negativity. This is territorial cognition. Schopenhauer wrote that human beings are driven by will before reason. The rational mind invents justifications after the will has already decided. When she criticizes women in your orbit, her will is marking boundaries her words will not admit. The psychology here is precise. She does not consciously think, I want him, so I must diminish rivals. The unconscious moves first. She feels discomfort when your attention goes elsewhere. Her mind generates reasons for that discomfort. She finds flaws because flaws justify the feeling without exposing its source. Here is what makes this sign powerful. She does this with women she perceives as threats. Not all women. If you mention a female friend and she responds neutrally, that friend does not register as competition. But if neutrality breaks, if critique slips through, you have found an edge. Your move is not to confront this. Do not say, sounds like you are jealous. That forces denial and doubles her defenses. Instead, note it privately. Recognize the pattern, because every criticism tells you something about how she is measuring herself against others in relation to you. Jung called this shadow projection. The qualities she attacks in others often reflect fears about herself. She worries she is not attractive enough, so she finds flaws in attractive women. She worries she is not interesting enough, so she undermines women who capture your interest. This is the shadow revealing itself. And once you see it, her words carry double meaning. I consulted with a man whose girlfriend constantly criticized his female co-workers. He thought she was insecure. She was. But the insecurity was rooted in desire she had never fully confessed. When he stopped defending the co-workers and started affirming his girlfriend without prompting, the criticism faded. She no longer needed to diminish others because she felt secure in his attention. Sign 3 still belongs to concealment. But we are approaching the edge. The next signs cross into the testing phase. This is where she begins to probe, to measure, to see if what she feels is safe to feel. And the first test is one most men experience as rejection. Sign 4. She withdraws after moments of closeness. You have a real conversation, not small talk, something honest. There is warmth, eye contact that lingers. For a moment, the mask slips. You see her clearly, and she lets you. Then, she vanishes. Messages slow. Availability disappears. When you do see her, she is polite, but distant. The warmth is gone. Most men interpret this as loss of interest. They are wrong. This is the first test of the shadow desire protocol, and it is pass or fail. Nietzsche wrote about the eternal recurrence, the idea that we must live as if every moment will repeat forever. Apply this to emotional risk. If she lets herself want you and you disappoint her, she does not just lose once. She loses every time she remembers choosing vulnerability. So after closeness, she retreats, not to punish you, to see what you do with space. If you chase, you fail. Chasing signals that your stability depends on her presence. That neediness transfers pressure onto her. She trusted herself with a moment of honesty, and now she is being asked to manage your emotions. The mask returns permanently. If you disappear completely, you also fail. Total withdrawal reads as indifference. She risked something real. Your absence says it did not matter. The correct response lives in the middle. You remain present without pursuing. You do not flood her with messages. You do not vanish either. You continue your life visibly. You engage when paths cross. You show no injury and no urgency. This response communicates something essential. That closeness with you does not create obligation. That she can open and close without losing you. That your groundedness is not a performance based on her behavior. Green teaches that strategic withdrawal creates desire, but he also teaches that total absence creates forgetting. The mastery is calibrated presence, close enough to be felt, far enough to be missed. I have seen men lose women they could have had because they could not tolerate the testing phase. The woman wanted him. She withdrew to test. He panicked and flooded her with attention. She learned that his stability was conditional. Attraction died not from her withdrawal, but from his reaction to it. Sign 4 marks the entry into testing. She is asking a question without words. Can I want you without losing myself? Your behavior writes the answer. Sign 5. She asks about your romantic life while pretending not to care. The question comes sideways, wrapped in casualness. So, are you seeing anyone? Big plans this weekend? She asks, then immediately looks at her phone. Or changes the subject. The question mattered, but she needs you to believe it did not. This is intelligence gathering. Machiavelli would recognize it instantly. Before any campaign, you must know the terrain. She cannot strategize her own desire without knowing what she is working with. But here is the nuance. She does not ask men she sees as friends. Friends get direct questions with no tension. She does not ask men she has no interest in. Those men do not generate curiosity. She asks you, and her pretended indifference is the tell. The psychology underneath is self-protection. If she asks directly and you answer in a way that hurts, she is exposed. But if she asks casually, she can absorb any answer without losing face. The casualness is armor. Your response options vary here. If you want to increase her interest, answer with amused ambiguity. A few situations, nothing serious yet. This creates mystery. It suggests options without confirmation. Her imagination fills in gaps, and imagination always generates more interest than information. If you want to test her investment, pause slightly before answering. Let silence hold for 1 second longer than normal. Then respond warmly. Why do you ask? Not accusatory, genuinely curious. Her reaction to this will tell you everything. Defensiveness signals concealment. Playfulness signals comfort. What you should never do is over-explain. Men who sense interest often unload their entire romantic history, trying to seem desired or available. This floods her with information she did not ask for. It signals eagerness. It kills the tension that made her ask in the first place. Epictetus taught that we control our judgments, not external events. Apply this here. You cannot control whether she asks. You can control the weight of your answer. Light responses generate curiosity. Heavy responses generate retreat. Sign 5 is still testing. She is mapping your availability. But the next sign goes deeper. She starts testing not your situation, but your character. And this test feels like disrespect until you understand what it actually measures. Sign 6. She playfully challenges or contradicts you. You share an opinion. She pushes back, not aggressively, but persistently. You recommend something. She questions it. You state a preference. She offers the opposite view. Most men read this as friction. Some read it as disinterest. The insecure ones read it as disrespect. All of them miss the point. Robert Greene observed that tension is essential to seduction. Without resistance, there is no polarity. Without polarity, there is no charge. She is not disagreeing with you because she thinks you are wrong. She is creating friction because friction sustains engagement. There is another layer. The contradiction is a test of frame. Frame is your ability to hold your reality under pressure. When she challenges you, she is asking, does he bend? Does he break? Or does he hold? Bending too easily signals weakness. She pushed, and you collapsed. Your opinions are not actually yours. They were performances waiting to be corrected. Breaking signals volatility. You became defensive, irritated, aggressive. Now she knows pressure destabilizes you. That is data she cannot ignore. Holding means you listen to her challenge, consider it, and respond from genuine position. Not stubbornness, not dismissal, groundedness. You can hear disagreement without needing to dominate or submit. Here is the phrase that works. That is a fair point, but here is why I still see it this way. You acknowledge her intelligence. You do not abandon your perspective. You create dialogue, not combat. This test separates boys from men faster than any other, because most men either cave to gain approval or fight to prove dominance. Neither response generates attraction. Both reveal insecurity. She wants a third option. A man whose frame exists independent of her validation. Sign 7. She creates reasons to touch you casually. A hand on your arm during conversation. Brushing against you when space allowed distance. Fixing something on your clothing that did not need fixing. This sign seems obvious. It is not. Because the women most skilled at concealment make touch look accidental even when it is deliberate. The unconscious truth is this. Touch is how the body tests chemistry before the mind commits. She is gathering data through contact. Does touching him feel safe? Does it feel exciting? Does he receive it calmly? Or does he tense? Freud wrote extensively about the pleasure principle. The body seeks pleasure and avoids pain automatically. Her touches are the pleasure principle expressing itself through action, while her conscious mind maintains deniability. Your response matters more than you realize. If you flinch or stiffen, You signal discomfort. She reads this as rejection. Touches stop. If you immediately escalate, you signal overeagerness. You took an inch and grabbed for a mile. She feels pressured. The ideal response is calm reception. Let the touch land. Do not pull away. Do not pounce forward. Let contact exist without turning it into an event. Then, later, initiate touch yourself with the same casualness. A hand on her shoulder during a laugh. Brief. Natural. Not loaded with intent. This mirrors her behavior and builds a loop. She touches. You touch. Neither of you acknowledges the escalation, but both of you feel it building. Sign 8. She shares vulnerabilities she hides from others. This one changes everything. A woman protecting her emotional position does not expose weakness to men she does not trust. Weakness is leverage. In the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. She knows this instinctively. So when she tells you something real, something that costs her to share, pay attention. This is not casual conversation. This is investment. Schopenhauer argued that all life is suffering, and the bonds we form are attempts to share that weight. When she shares struggle, fear, imperfection, she is asking whether you can hold weight without using it against her. The response most men give is problem-solving. They hear vulnerability and immediately offer solutions. This misses the point entirely. She did not share to get fixed. She shared to be witnessed. The correct response is presence without rescue. A pause. Eye contact. Something like, "That sounds heavy. Thank you for telling me." No immediate advice, no minimizing, just acknowledgement that her honesty mattered. This response does something powerful. It tells her that vulnerability with you does not require performance. She does not need to be strong, entertaining, or easy. She can be human, and you will not run, fix, or exploit. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the application. Do not tell her you are trustworthy. Demonstrate it through how you receive what she offers. Sign 8 marks a transition. We are moving from testing into revelation. She has hidden, she has probed, and now pieces of the mask are falling. But the next signs show up in places you would never expect, and they reveal just how much mental space you have already claimed. Sign 9. She brings up things you said in past conversations. Not the important things. Not the things you meant her to remember. The passing comments. The throwaway observations. The details you forgot before the sentence finished. She brings them back. You said something about that band once. Didn't you mention you hate that kind of coffee? This is proof of psychological residence. You are living in her mind rent-free. Jung spoke of the anima, the unconscious feminine image men carry, and the animus, the masculine image women carry. When you begin to occupy her animus, you appear in her thoughts without invitation. She replays conversations, analyzes phrasing, extracts meaning from moments you experienced as ordinary. The references she makes are the residue of that process. She cannot tell you that she thinks about you when you are not there, but she can prove it by what she retained. Here is the distinction most men miss. If she remembers important information you shared deliberately, she was listening. That is respect. But if she remembers information you shared without emphasis, she was recording. That is something else entirely. Do not make her self-conscious about this. Do not say, "I cannot believe you remember that." That frames her memory as excessive. Instead, receive it as natural. Yeah, exactly. Then continue the conversation. Let her remembering exist without spotlight. This normalizes her investment. It tells her that being known by you is not something to be embarrassed about, that you expect people to pay attention because you are worth paying attention to. Arrogance? No. Frame. The man who acts surprised by interest signals that interest is unusual. The man who receives it calmly signals that interest is expected. Sign 10. She mirrors your language patterns. This is subconscious absorption. You use a particular phrase. Days later, she uses the same phrase. You describe something a certain way. She adopts the description. This is not mimicry, it is linguistic merging, and it happens only with people who have penetrated our psychological filters. Green writes about the art of making others come to you. But there is a stage beyond attraction where they do not just approach. They begin to absorb. Your vocabulary becomes part of their vocabulary. Your frames become their frames. When a woman starts speaking like you, she is not imitating. She is integrating. Your patterns have slipped past her defenses and are now influencing how she processes language itself. Watch for your distinctive phrases, the ones unique to how you speak. When those reappear in her mouth, you have evidence of deep psychological impact. The move here is subtle. Use a new phrase deliberately. Something specific and memorable. Wait. If she adopts it within a few conversations, you have confirmation. She is not just listening to you. She is encoding you. This sign belongs to revelation. She is no longer just testing. She is changing in response to your presence. And changes this deep cannot be hidden forever. Now I want to pause here, because what comes next requires preparation. The remaining signs are the most powerful. They are also the most misread. These are the behaviors that look like rejection, feel like hostility, and drive men away right before the breakthrough. If you have ever had a woman suddenly grow cold after showing warmth, suddenly critical after showing acceptance, this section will reframe everything you thought you understood. The shadow does not reveal itself gently. It erupts. And if you are not ready, you will run from exactly what you were looking for. Sign 11 requires you to understand a principle Nietzsche spent his career examining. He called it the revaluation of all values. The idea that what appears as one thing often serves as the opposite. Weakness performing as strength. Cruelty disguised as kindness. And, for our purposes, rejection functioning as desperate invitation. We are entering the final phase. Sign 11. She becomes inexplicably critical of you. Everything was fine. Conversation flowed. The energy was warm. Then something shifts. She finds fault. Your choice was wrong. Your opinion is off. The thing you thought was funny is actually annoying. This feels like the end. For most men, it is. They retreat, assuming they misread everything. Or they fight back, turning tension into conflict. Both responses miss what is actually happening. Freud identified a mechanism he called reaction formation. When a feeling becomes too threatening to acknowledge, the mind produces its opposite. Hatred masks love. Cruelty masks desire. Criticism masks want. When she becomes suddenly harsh, you have likely crossed a threshold without knowing it. Her feelings intensified past her comfort level. The mask could not contain them. So the shadow inverted the signal. She does not dislike you. She dislikes how much she is starting to need you. And because she cannot say that, her psyche converts the pressure into its opposite expression. This is where most men get eliminated. The test is brutal and unfair. But it is a test. Can you hold frame when she turns against you? Can you stay warm when she grows cold? Can you recognize armor when it is dressed as attack? Here is your response. Do not match her energy. If she criticizes, do not defend or attack. Let her words exist. Pause. Then respond with grounded calm. Something like, I hear you. I see it differently, but I appreciate you being direct. No injury in your voice, no sarcasm, no counterstrike. This response does something extraordinary. It proves that her intensity cannot destabilize you, that you can hold difficult emotion without becoming reactive, that your center is not a performance dependent on her approval. Hobbes wrote that the life of man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This is the emotional version. Relationships test us with difficulty. The person who maintains integrity through the brutish moments earns trust that pleasant exchanges never build. When you hold through her criticism, something releases in her. The test is over. She knows now that you are solid. The mask becomes harder to maintain because she no longer needs it for protection. Sign 12. She talks about other men to see your reaction. She mentions someone, a guy at work, someone she used to date, a friend who is interested in her. The mention is casual but deliberate, and after she says it, she watches. This is the jealousy probe, and it is one of the oldest tests in human psychology. Machiavelli advised princes to study how others respond to perceived threats. The response reveals true position. She is applying the same principle. She creates a perceived threat, then reads your reaction to understand your investment. If you become visibly jealous, you expose need. Jealousy announces that your emotional state depends on her choices. This creates leverage she did not ask for and responsibility she does not want. If you become hostile or dismissive toward the other man, you signal insecurity. You saw a threat and could not handle it without aggression. That response generates fear, not attraction. If you shut down completely, you signal injury. You could not stay present once competition appeared. That reads as fragility. The correct response is interested neutrality. Oh yeah? How do you know him? You engage without tensing. You show curiosity without concern. You treat the information as interesting, not threatening. This response communicates high value without words. A man with options does not panic when a woman mentions other men. A man who knows his worth does not need to eliminate competition through hostility. He trusts that his presence speaks for itself. Here is the deeper psychology. She is not actually interested in these other men. If she were, she would not be telling you about them. Women do not advertise real options to men they want. They mention men specifically to men they want to see react. The mention is a bid for confirmation. She wants to know you care, but she needs you to demonstrate care without losing composure. That threading is the test. Albert Ellis developed rational emotive behavior therapy around one core insight. Emotional disturbance comes not from events, but from beliefs about events. Apply this here. The event is her mentioning another man. The irrational belief is, this means I am losing her. The rational response is, she is testing, because she cares enough to test. Reframe the event. Pass the test. Watch her other man mentions decrease as her security increases. We are now in revelation. The mask is cracking. One sign remains, and it is the moment where everything inverts. Sign 13. She pushes you away right before surrender. This is the final exam, the climax of the shadow desire protocol, and it is the one almost no man survives without preparation. Things have progressed. Connection is real. The signs have accumulated. You feel certainty building. Then, without warning, she creates distance, not the testing distance from earlier. Something sharper. She cancels plans. She goes cold. She may even say directly that this is not going to work. Everything in you screams, It is over. Walk away. Do not walk away. Schopenhauer wrote about the will's tendency towards self-sabotage. When we approach what we truly want, unconscious fear generates obstacles, not because we do not want the thing, because we want it so much that having it terrifies us. She is not rejecting you. She is terrified of what comes next. Surrender requires giving up control. For a woman who has been managing her desire through concealment and testing, surrender feels like falling. And the instinct before falling is to grab for something solid. That grab looks like pushing you away. It is a last desperate attempt to regain control before control becomes impossible. Here is what you must understand. If she did not want you, she would not need to push. Indifference does not require force. Only desire does. The strength of her push often matches the depth of her want. Your response determines everything. If you accept the rejection at face value, you confirm her deepest fear, that the feelings were too much, that she was right to hide, that vulnerability leads to abandonment. If you become angry or desperate, you prove she was wrong to want you. Your reaction validates every cautious instinct she had. But if you hold steady, something else happens. You say something like, "I hear what you are saying. I am not going anywhere. When you are ready to talk, I will be here." Then you give space. Real space. Not manipulative silence. Genuine room for her to process. This response rewrites her story. It says, "Your fear did not scare me off. Your push did not work. I am still here. Not chasing. Not fleeing. Present." Plato wrote about the cave, where prisoners mistake shadows for reality. She has been living in a cave of her own making. The concealment, the testing, the pushing, these are shadows on the wall. Your steadiness is the light that reveals them for what they are. When you hold through the final push, the mask collapses, not gradually, completely, because she no longer needs it. You have proven that every fear underlying the mask was unfounded. You stayed when she pushed. You remained calm when she escalated. You showed her that wanting you was safe. This is the moment of revelation. The shadow desire stops being shadow. It becomes spoken. She tells you, or shows you through action, what was true all along. But let me be clear. You cannot fake this. You cannot perform steadiness while feeling desperate. She will sense the incongruence. The holding must be real. You must actually be grounded. You must actually trust yourself enough to withstand her storm without losing your center. This brings us to the real lesson. Everything I have shown you today, the 13 signs, the 3 phases, the responses, they all require one thing. You must become a man whose stability is not performance. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." Your why cannot be her. If your why is getting her approval, winning her affection, securing her commitment, you will tighten at every test. You will leak neediness through every interaction. The mask will detect your mask. Your why must be internal. Self-mastery. Personal evolution. Becoming the man you know you are capable of being. When that is your why, her tests become irrelevant. Not because you do not care, because your care has a foundation she cannot shake. Marcus Aurelius spent a lifetime practicing this. He ruled an empire while writing private reminders to stay centered regardless of external chaos. You are not ruling an empire, but you are navigating something equally complex, another human heart. And hearts test the way empires rebel. Not to destroy you, to find out who you really are. Let me tell you what changes when you internalize this. You stop misreading. The silence that once felt like rejection becomes recognizable as concealment. The coldness that once hurt becomes obvious testing. The pushback that once confused you reveals itself as the door before the breakthrough. You stop chasing, not because you learned some trick of strategic withdrawal, because you genuinely no longer need to chase. You trust the process. You trust yourself. You know that what is meant for you will not require you to abandon your center. You start attracting differently. Women sense solidity before they understand it. Your groundedness creates safety before you say a word. And safety, real safety, is what every hidden desire is waiting for. The shadow desire protocol is not a manipulation technique. It is a recognition framework. These women were already hiding their want. I have only taught you to see what was always there. The question now is simple. Will you go back to misreading? Will you return to confusion, frustration, missed connections? Will you keep walking away from women who wanted you because they showed it through shadow instead of light? Or will you see? The signs are everywhere. They have always been everywhere. You were simply never given the map. Now you have it. Before you leave, I want you to do something for yourself. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me. For the version of you that is ready to see clearly. The man who no longer misreads. The man who holds through tests. The man who recognizes desire even when it disguises itself as distance. That man deserves every tool available. And there is more coming. What I have shared today is the beginning. The deeper patterns, the advanced strategies, the complete psychology of shadow desire, that is what we build together. Stay here. Stay ready. And next time she hides, you will already know.